Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Range was shooting the Traditions Flintlock Deer Hunter, and I thought I would make a little video on an intro to flintlocks for those who've never messed with black powder or any sort of a traditional firearm like that, and also a brief review of this rifle. I've had it 3 years now. I've had it 2 years now, 3 years now, give or take. And while I was at the range today, I had a young gentleman and his father come by. They were enamored by the fact I was shooting a flintlock, and they wanted to shoot it. So obviously we had fun with that. And they were asking all sorts of questions about how to get into it. And so this video will be for y'all. And for anybody else who's trying to get into black powder firearms and whatnot. So first things first I want to go over is the powder. That's probably the most important thing of shooting flintlocks, is what you have to have is traditional black powder. The way that black powder ignites is much different from the way that Pyrodex, the black powder substitute, or modern smokeless powder ignites. But the main difference between the two is black powder itself is very, very violent when it takes a spark. It'll immediately engulf up and flash out and do its thing. Whereas if you've ever lit like smokeless powder on fire, it's a very slow but very hot burn. And basically what happens with something like Pyrodex, which is a black powder substitute, it does not flare up the same way that black powder does. So in order to shoot a flintlock, you need to have a black powder, a true black powder of some sort. When you get black powder, there's different granule sizes, and that's what the 3Fs stand for. So the more Fs, the finer the powder, whereas the smaller, or if it was single FG, it would be much more coarse. So when you're going to prime, if you're looking for a powder to prime and shoot, you can go with a triple FG in modern loads, and I know the old military firearms in their reproductions, you could prime with double FG or do whatever. You can prime basically what you're shooting with. It's just a little bit faster if you go with something like when I was experimenting with powder, I went with 4FG in a with Schutzen, and I got some 2FG to shoot out of the main charge. If you don't have a major supply of black powder, maybe it's hard to get, you don't want to pay the hazmat fees, and you still want to get into shooting flintlocks, there's one thing you can do, and that's called a duplex load, or duplex charge. It's not very reliable for hunting and whatnot, but if you're just trying to get the practice, and you're saving up your load for when you actually go hunting, you can get double FG or triple FG Pyrodex. But what you're going to do is when you go to load the projectile, or load the powder charge, you're going to start first with pouring a small amount of actual black powder. So the general rule of thumb is 5 to 10 grains. You can use your triple FG. You can use, I've even used the priming powder, the 4FG in the pre-charge. And then with either a pellet crushed up or with the actual powdered Pyrodex, I will then load the rest of my load. So say if this load is a 70 grain charge, I'll do 10 grains, 5 to 10 grains of the priming powder, and then the rest of the charge will be 60 grains of double FG Pyrodex or whatever it is. But if you want the best results possible and you don't want to mess with playing that game, just get straight black powder and it'll do you just fine. Forgot it was off camera, but the next thing we're going to go over is the flints. I got these from Track of the Wolf. They're pretty awesome. They can make just about any size that you want. There's, you know, anything all the way up to the large chunks that you would see on the military firearms, and the really tiny stuff for like the Thompson center locks and whatnot. This is a standard English flint. You can have, yeah, little piece of leather. That's all that is that holds the actual flint in. But size your flints according to what lock you have. So what I did with this is I went to Track of the Wolf. They're an awesome black powder supplier. They sell everything you could ever think of for black powder. And what I did was I went with the maximum size of my frizzen, and so what I did was I measured the size of my frizzen width, and it was about 5/8 of an inch. And then I also measured how long it would take, or how long of a flint it would take to hit the pan perfectly on the top of this angle right here. You don't want it to hit too soon, because then what will happen is you'll start breaking flints, and it'll work. It just probably won't be as effective. You may get some misfires and not really igniting the powder as fast as you can. And if you have the flint not hitting in the right spot on the frizzen, and you have it hitting too low, it'll basically just break off pieces of the rock as well, and it may not even open up the frizzen depending on how strong your spring is. In the video you're going to be seeing of this thing shooting, you'll notice that my lock time is very, very short, especially with the black powder loads. It's almost faster, and I have read that you can get a flintlock if you have everything timed correctly. It is actually a faster lock time than a cap lock, just due to the nature of how everything works and the geometry to the flash hole to how it ignites. It's wild once you start digging into it. Next thing we're going to go over is what you're shooting, the projectile and the wad. You can get these just about anywhere that does black powder. This particular model is a 1 48 inch twist barrel. What that means is in the rifling, for every 48 inches, you'll have one revolution of the rifling. So, for example, the real slow twist, 1 48, there's some that are even slower than that, like in the old Kentucky long rifles and stuff like that. They will have the issue where you can only run patched round balls. That's about the most that they will stabilize and be accurate with, basically. If you tried to shoot something with a taller bullet or a longer surface that it's trying to spin, what basically happens is, like you've seen in AR-15 videos and whatnot, if you have someone that's shooting, say, a 1 9 inch gun or a 1 12, and they try to shoot something heavier, and you notice down range that the bullet holes in the target are elongated or they're starting to yaw. Is basically the projectile isn't stable when it's leaving the muzzle. So like a spiral in a football, if you have a weaker spiral, it's not going to go as far and it's not going to be as accurate. It's going to start wobble, it's going to start losing momentum, you'll lose range and stuff like that. So with these guns, with this particular one, I have actually played with the Sabos from Thompson Center. I've also shot some of the Hornady. I've also shot some of the Hornady solid lead bullets, and it actually works pretty good. I haven't shot it out to like 100 yards or anything crazy like that, but inside of 75, 50 yards with this Hawkins style rifle, I haven't seen any tumbling or any issues with that. Your mileage may vary though. That's also why, that's kind of why I've decided to just stick with patched round balls and just keep this a fairly close range hunting rifle. If you do go with the patched round balls, word of advice, patched round balls, they are sized. You have to get your sizing just right for what you want to do with patched round balls. The tighter you get it in the bore, the better you're going to get as far as that spinning motion and how accurate your balls are going to be. However, once you start shooting, once, twice, 3 times, you'll start noticing the fouling and it'll start getting really, really tight. You'll have to clean your rifle more often. You'll have to do a lot of like blow tubing and stuff like that, where you blow out the muzzle of the rifle or through the flash hole. They make those little blow tubes, and you can blow through the barrel and soften that fouling and get yourself by a little bit. Or you can do like I do, and I actually go with either the Hornady projectiles, which is a 495, and I go with thinner 0.5 thickness pillow tickling for the patches. Or what you can do is you can go on Track of the Wolf, and they have every lead ball size known to mankind. Go to Track of the Wolf, and you can go down to a 490 or any combination you want thereof. And then you can use something kind of like the TC patches that they sell. These TC patches are about 0.15 thickness, 0.15 inches. So these don't really work well with these, just due to the nature of how thick they are. You can get them to work, but it's like forcing it down the barrel. Whereas with these and this, it's a little more user-friendly up until, I would say, 5 or 6 shots. That's when I start noticing some heavy fouling, and I need to go ahead and clean out the bore and do all that before I keep shooting. Or I can go through and do some more blow tubing and just keep that nice humid breath through the barrel to soften up that fouling to keep it from sticking as much. The last thing you can get to make your life a little bit easier if you want to shoot more and not be as held up is these little pre-shot tubes. I use these quite a bit. They're just like using the old paper cartridges and whatnot. I've never put the actual ball in here to store the shot, but I'm sure you could do something like that as well. If you're using a mini ball of some sort or whatever. But grab you a couple of these, make sure they're the heavier duty plastic so that they're not getting crushed in your gun case, and also make sure that the stoppers or make sure the covers are really tight on there, because they will spill out on the cheaper ones and get all over your stuff. So last thing we're going to go through is talk about this particular firearm and whether you should get one of the cheaper Traditions guns and whatnot. They make this rifle really affordable, and when I saw it for the first time with this dual coated two-tone Cerakote kind of job, I was like, I've got to have that. That looks so insanely cool. And I wanted to see how long it would last and play with it. So far, I don't know if you've noticed on the end of the barrel, the actual rod that they send with it, it's a cheap piece of plastic junk, and you should throw it away immediately. Mine snapped on me within 2 outings of trying to go shoot it and whatnot. I would highly recommend you can either go to Cabela's or go to Track of the Wolf or somewhere that sells muzzleloading equipment, and they have those customizable cut to length ramrods out of the solid aluminum. You can get the fiberglass ones, you can get the brass ones, but go ahead and get you an aftermarket one. Don't stick with the ones that Traditions give you, because you'll end up shattering that thing on a hunt and probably tossing the gun down a gully with it. I've probably taken it out once every couple months throughout these last couple of years. The finish on the actual frizzen plate, just due to the heat, has all pretty much burned off. You can see a little remnants of that Cerakote here. I don't know if that's a change here. Is probably just me cleaning the snot out of it after it's been shot a lot and the fire and all that stuff burning and gunking up around the action. But as far as the actual finish on the barrel, I mean, it's not the prettiest, but it's staying pretty strong, even though I've had it, 2 or 3 years and shot it quite a bit. When cleaning, be very careful. Like I accidentally lost the little touch holes that they put in these, but that is an extremely awesome an extremely awesome idea to have a removable touch hole. This is where your priming charge travels to ignite the gunpowder that come to this touch hole is where your priming charge travels to ignite your gunpowder inside the barrel and send your projectile downrange. These removable touch holes are really awesome. You can take your whole lock apart. You can remove the lock from the rifle, clean it, put it back together, and using that touch hole, this one takes an Allen key. The ones that are on the guns when they come from the factory take a regular Phillips head, and those things are really awesome for. And that method of cleaning those out is really awesome because you could literally just take it out of the gun and, spray some brake cleaner through it or whatever your favorite, firearm solvent is. Clean it up with a brush real quick and get it back in action. Another thing that I've something that I have upgraded as well as the ramrod is these rear sights. I turned this from a 3-post notch sight to a ghost ring sight. With the ghost ring sight and the lollipop up front, I'm not the most accurate in the world, and that's probably a healthy mixture of me not being the best flintlock shooter and just the nature of the sights. But at 50 yards or so, it's well within a minute of animal. I'll post a couple pictures of the groups that I've shot with it. It's probably, with patched round balls, it's probably a 3-inch gun at that distance. Maybe the stock on the rifle is nothing to write home about, but it's adequate for the job. Nothing wrong with it. Little cheesy, but for $250, $350, I mean, it's about as good as you're going to get on any modern hunting rifle in that budget range. So Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helps you get started if you're into muzzleloading firearms. If there's something I missed, please let me know. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'm more than happy to. And have fun and stay safe out there. Have a good evening. Goodbye.